Hey balancers, and welcome back to another episode of the Balance Theory podcast. I hope you're enjoying your coffee on your commute to work, or you're on a walk, enjoying the sunshine and the fresh air. Wherever you're listening to us right now, I want to thank you so much for tuning in, taking the time to dedicate to your self-awareness, your growth, and your balance. And I'm so excited you're here because today is an incredible episode, one I've been meaning to record and share with you all for quite some time. Today's conversation is going to be all around 5 mindset shifts I think that you need to adopt, that I need to adopt, that we all need to adopt and embrace if we're serious about taking control of our life. Honestly, guys, buckle up because you're going to take a lot out of today's episode. There's going to be some really key distinctions and things that are going to be clarified for you in just the way you maybe think about some of these different mindsets that I think are going to be really key breakthroughs. Like, I have a feeling that you're going to have a breakthrough in this episode. So I'm really, really excited to share this one with you all. Before we dive in though, I would just want to share something that's really exciting. I'm in the process. I mean, maybe I should keep this under wraps, but I'm a sharer. I love sharing things. I'm in the process of rebranding the podcast, and I'm doing some really, really deep thinking, some really cool creative strategy behind it all. And I want you guys to get involved. So what I've done is I've put together a very, very short survey. I think it's about 6 questions, and it should literally take you maybe 1 to 2 minutes. Now, the link is in the show notes, and I haven't structured it in a way that's going to give away the whole rebrand. The essence of the podcast is not changing. This is more like a visual creative strategy, but I do need to just kind of get a little bit more juice, a bit of meat from you guys to kind of put together what I've got in my head with where you guys are at. So it's nothing too personal. It's just a couple questions about what you guys like listening to. Click on the link. You'll see what I'm talking about. You don't need to put in your name or email, anything like that. It's just 6 really quick questions to give me a bit of a feel for the vibe and make sure, a bit of a vibe check, make sure that we're all on the same page. And I'm really excited because it's going to help me really steer, I guess, this next little strategy, creative direction of mine. So save that one for after the show, or just pause the episode and quickly do it now. It would literally mean the absolute world to me because, this podcast is growing for and with you all. So I really appreciate when you guys take the time to help me steer the direction of the show, but very exciting things to come. So stay tuned and make sure you're linked up with us on socials because I may drop some teasers, put up some polls, see what you guys prefer. So get in on all the action. Link to our Instagrams in the show notes below too. So with that being said, let's start with the first mindset shift of the 5 I'm going to share today that you need to adopt to take full control of your life. The first one is this idea of a growth mindset shift. You've probably heard about it before, but the opposite of a growth mindset is a fixed mindset. So to me personally, having a growth mindset is really embracing this idea that your skills, your abilities, your knowledge can be developed through continuous learning. It's embracing this idea that what you know now is limited to what you know now, and you fully accept that there's always so much to know and learn and grow, and you gravitate towards those opportunities. You don't shy away from the potential to learn something new. So one way to check, or I guess just understand if you actually have a growth mindset in your current life, is to ask yourself, what area of my life am I currently growing in? So if we look at our health, are you currently growing in your physical health? Are you learning about your body? Are you trialing new exercise regimes? Are you experimenting with new diets or educating yourself on different diets in that regard? On the, emotional or mental health side, we can talk about mindfulness. We can talk about working with a therapist. There's so many different things wrapped up in that about what you can be growing or learning in. But just have a think about in your health if you feel that you're growing at all. Same with relationships. Maybe just by virtue of you being in a new relationship or meeting new people, that's a form of you having a growth mindset, or you're learning from maybe other people in your industry or your space, but it's through the connection or the power of relationships that growth is coming about. Then we've got the area of fulfillment, which for a lot of you will be your job. Do you feel like you're growing in that job? Or do you feel like you're growing in a new hobby that you're learning or trying to master, or your business? Have a think about which area of all of those if any, you feel that you're currently growing in. Now, the reason I feel this is important is because when we're learning, when we're growing, it brings this zest into our life. It brings this really interesting, curious energy or layer into our life that almost feels like newness, right? And when we have a plateau in life, you'll generally find it's when you're not learning anything new, when everything is kind of just stagnant in every area. Now, of course, I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with being in that chill zone. I think there's definitely a place for it at different moments in life. But if you're someone listening who just feels like your life is missing that oomph, that extra just like energy or just something interesting, I'd be very curious to know if it's because you don't feel like you're growing or learning in any of the areas of your life. Now, we can peel that back and then go, okay, is that because we just haven't been proactive, like we're not proactively engaging in anything? Or is it because we're stuck in a bit of a fixed mindset? So rather than sit here and kind of feel like a bit of a victim to your circumstances, to take control of your life, you want to really lean into this growth mindset and ask yourself the question, what area of my life can I choose to grow in at this moment? Of course, if we kind of decide to just grow in all the areas of our life, it's going to feel a little bit tumultuous. It's going to feel a bit, like the ground's shaking underneath you. So I probably wouldn't recommend just having a massive upheaval and changing everything in one go. Although if that's your style, go for it. But I think if you're feeling that stagnation, if you want a little bit more energy and just like, level of interestingness, I don't even know if that's a word, but you guys know what I mean, then I think have a think about what area of your life you can choose to learn and grow in. And I will say, it doesn't mean you need to snap into being like a full-blown hustle mode, be busy, like have a full-blown schedule. It just means you need something to feed your mind. You need to learn a new skill or just be interested in something that's beyond the realm of what you currently know to be true. So this is the first mindset shift, going from a fixed mindset, or even I'd say like a bit of a neutral mindset, to a growth mindset, and really always asking yourself the question, what can I learn and grow in? And once you kind of adapt and whatever you've grown in something, you've learned a new skill, it's then pivoting onto the next. It's keeping life interesting. And really embracing that you can never know enough. There's always stuff for you to learn and grow in life. And I think that's really exciting and a way to really take charge of your own life. The second mindset shift I feel we all need to really embrace and take control of our life is an abundant mindset. I'm sure the concept of an abundant mindset is not something that's new to you. The opposite of an abundant mindset being a scarcity mindset. And this one requires you to change from a scarcity mindset, which is kind of that mentality of there's not enough in the world to go around. If somebody else has something, that means it's taken away from you, that you can't have it. That kind of mentality, shifting from that into abundance, which is plentifulness, which is there's always opportunity. There'll always be another opportunity. There are ample things in the world for everybody to share in, that kind of mentality. And I think if you're unsure like where you sit in this camp, it requires you to bring a little bit of awareness into how you make decisions. So I think a really good one is thinking about spending money. If you are in the camp of, just save, hold on to your money, don't ever spend it, sit on it forever, and you get really like uncomfortable spending money, it could be an indication that you have a scarcity mindset. Whereas if you had an abundant mindset, of course, there's a place for saving. But having an abundant mindset is spending it knowing it will come back, viewing money as energy. And for energy to kind of circulate and come back to you, you have to put it out there, just as a really simple example. Another one could be if you have an opportunity for whatever it is, a job, let's say, and you feel like saying yes because you don't know if there'll be another opportunity and it may not necessarily be the right fit for you, but you're saying yes out of fear of there may not be another. That's scarcity. Whereas if you have an abundant mindset and you have an opportunity and you really feel like it doesn't tick all your boxes, or you're just not sure about it, you're a bit on the fence, you won't say yes to that opportunity because you know that there is something better out there for you. So just thinking about the way you make decisions, and I guess the thoughts around the way you make decisions, is a good way to clear up, I guess, how or which mindset you sit in the camp of. And it could be that with some things you're abundant and with some things you're scarce. But I think entirely shifting into abundance, it's this, like, the way I would describe it is this inner knowing that there are ample things, that what's meant for you will be yours. It's this trust in the universe, in God, whatever you believe in, that what's meant for you will be yours. And I think really surrendering to that is a really key way to take control of your life, because otherwise you're constantly focused on the things you can't control. If you have a scarcity mindset, you're more often than not worrying or stressing or holding on to things that are actually not within your control. And it actually has the opposite effect of feeling in control. You actually feel like nothing's kind of going your way. Whereas if you shift into abundance, accept what you can't control, it's almost a way to take control of your life, because you're surrendering or sitting in that flow state and just trusting, as opposed to clinging on to really what is the truth of what you can't control. So that's kind of one way I really feel is key for us to really embrace this idea of controlling our life through a mindset shift. And a really important one that I think takes a little bit of time to fully embrace, but once you get there, it's like just a knock-on effect with everything, and you start actually embracing things that feel very aligned for you. I think this is a key one for alignment too. The next mindset shift I feel is really key to take control or charge of your life is shifting from a closed mindset to an open mindset, which is, I guess, in ways similar to the growth mindset, but this one is more that you're just open and receptive to new ideas and things or people, things like that. So it's not necessarily like the first one where you need to be growing or learning new things. This is just about being open-minded. You don't necessarily have to adopt what another person's belief system is, what their thoughts are. It's just being open to the fact that somebody else may have a completely different view of the world to you, or being open to the fact that there's a whole different life experience that feels so different and far in your mind. It's just being open-minded. And you really see the world in a very different lens when you embrace this. When you're closed-minded, you have the view that your way of doing things is right. This also means the way you show up in relationships is very fixed. It's very closed. You're not open to a conversation. You're not open to active listening. Things like that you'll find in maybe arguments or disputes. You get really like kind of tense and closed up and shut off, and you're not open to the fact that somebody else might be different. And I think a key thing to embracing an open mindset is accepting that just by being open doesn't mean you have to agree. That's really, really important. You can be open to other people, other thoughts, other ideologies without necessarily agreeing to things. So you see how there's a little bit of a difference there. And I think this way of thinking really changes the way you communicate, interact, and connect with other people. So if you found in the past you just almost jump on the defense when you're with other people that you don't agree with, it's probably because you have a very closed mindset. And maybe a simple reason is you've been worried or scared, or maybe haven't understood that just by being open doesn't mean you have to agree. So try it next time. I mean, you're in one of those situations and you feel a little bit, tense. Just be open, relax to the fact that there could be other ideas without the stress or the pressure or need to feel like you have to agree. And I think this is a really cool way to just open ourselves up to different experiences and people and ways of thinking in life. And that's a way to take control of different situations you're in. I think the very key part of knowing that being open doesn't mean you have to accept is also a key kind of shift to taking charge of your life. And one I think a lot of you are going to get value out of kind of adopting and embracing. The next mindset shift is having a purposeful and an intentional mindset. So the opposite of that being you kind of just on autopilot. You're not thinking about the way things are making you feel, whether good or bad. And you're just kind of going through the motions of life versus having a strong connection with your purpose and setting intentions as you do things. And even just little things like when you're making your coffee or before you hang out with your girlfriends, like having that intention, having that purpose is a shift and a way for you to take control of your day-to-day existence, even moment to moment. And I think like sometimes when we talk about our life purpose, right, that's really like it feels sometimes a bit out of reach. Like, I don't know what my life purpose is. It sometimes feels like a bit of a stretch for a lot of us. Like, it feels like this big concept that we can't connect with. And what I have to say to that, and my personal opinion, is if you can start with an intention, so just being really intentful in the way you do things, the way you show up, the energy you bring. Even if, and I'm talking really minuscule here. Like, so before I did this podcast, I set my intention for how I want to come across with you guys, how I want you guys to feel, or how I want my, message to be absorbed before I jump on a meeting or spend the night with my partner or anything. I try, I don't stick to it all the time, but I really try to set my intention, which connects me to the present moment. And I think over time, if you get in the habit of setting and creating these intentions, it adds little bite sizes to your overall purpose, right? It may not be clear to you right now what your purpose is, but I think if you can start with the intention, moment to moment or event to event or, meeting to meeting, schedule to schedule, if you can start there, it brings a sense of ownership, like you're kind of owning the moments in your life and connecting to them by being present. And I think this is such a simple way we can kind of take control of our lives, of owning the moments and the days in our life, rather than just being on autopilot and accepting, well, that just must be it, that this is my life, this is just the way it is. Like, you have the power to connect with everything that happens in your life, whether it's to you routine and mundane and happens all the time. It doesn't actually have to feel that way. You can, be going to the same coffee shop, getting on the same train every morning, walking the same route, but have the intention of what that does for you, why you're doing it, why you enjoy it. And this might actually, highlight to you as well things that are not really serving you, things that you've maybe just been doing just because they're on autopilot, but maybe you want to do something else and bring an intention to trying something new. So I just think giving yourself a little push or a little reminder to try and have an intention before you do things, or even as you're doing them, like just think about what your intention is in that moment, what you want to get from what it is that you're doing, is a really, really simple way to take control of your life and a great mindset shift to move away from feeling like everything's just on autopilot to feeling present and energetic in what you're doing. Number 5 is a really, really special and very, very important one, and it's a self-worth mindset shift. So we need to move out of a self-doubt mindset into a self-worth mindset. This is probably one of the most challenging ones, because I feel like our whole lives we've basically trained ourselves with thought, the way the media speaks, the way we are just so critical on ourselves has almost felt like normal, right? It feels like second nature to be so hard on ourselves, to have that doubt. That voice in our head we're familiar with. But when we think about the things we think about ourselves and the things we say to ourselves and the level of criticism that we have towards ourselves, if you think about speaking to your best friend like that when she was having a bad day, or, telling those things to your sister when she's done an amazing project and thinks it's not good enough, we would never say the things that we say to ourselves to the people we love most. And just thinking about that in and of itself is a little, wake up call to remind us that we now think something is normal. That is just a mindset shift we need to grow out of. This one takes practice. It's something I'm still working on a daily basis. I have moments where I've done a lot and I'm tough on myself and I feel like it wasn't good enough, or it wasn't a level I expected, or you get critical, right, about where you're not at in life, what you haven't achieved, what you haven't acquired, what you haven't bought, always focusing on the negative, on what you haven't done. But you have an opportunity every single time this happens to catch yourself out, to remind yourself and gently reframe. We can even draw from the mindset before of bringing an intention. You can set an intention every time you feel that voice coming up to say, I'm actually going to choose to shift into a self-worth mindset in this moment. And that could be changing the dialogue. It could be reframing and imagining if this was your sister or your best friend in this situation, what advice would you give them? And slowly, after time, with a bit of practice, maybe that self-worth mindset, that voice starts to get louder and louder. But I think this one is really key if we want to take control of our own lives, because our self-awareness and our self-worth is such a key pillar in everything we do. I mean, if we don't have good self-worth, it's going to impact our intention. It's going to impact the way we can be open to others, because really we're not even open to ourselves. We're not going to want to learn and grow because maybe we don't think we're worthy of that. So if anything, of all the 5 mindsets, this is probably number 1. This is kind of like when you think about your health in the context of all the other areas of your life. This is kind of like the main mindset shift, I think, that probably spills into all the others. I think you could probably get away with not knowing your purpose and not setting an intention, but still having a growth mindset and still being open-minded. But I really think this one spills over into most of the other mindsets and has the most impact on how we feel in control of our lives or not. I think if you are in a bit of a self-doubt mindset, a self-hate mindset, you also can feel a lot like a victim to your circumstances. And that's really a tough place to be if you're trying to take charge, take control and own and pave your own path, create your own reality. So a really special and important one to focus on. So these are the 5 mindset shifts I feel are absolutely necessary if we want to take charge of our own life. They obviously take time, practice, and effort to shift out of and into. And what I would say, if more than one of these have really stood out to you today as something you want to work on, I'd say just start small. Start with 1. Don't try and embody all 5 all at once. Have a think about now between, all 5 of the growth mindset, the abundant mindset, the open-minded mindset, the purposeful and intentional mindset, and the self-worth mindset. Which one to you has stood out the most? Which do you feel will have the most impact on your personal life? And start there. Start working around ways to catch yourself out, to shift into the mindset that you want, that you feel you need. And slowly over time, you can start bringing all the other ones in. But just listening to this episode has already given you a level of awareness that you didn't have before. A level of awareness that now when you start having those thoughts or start shifting into those thought patterns, you're going to catch yourself out and be like, hey, I'm being a little bit closed-minded right now, or I'm being a little bit fixed in my thinking, or, I have a scarcity mentality right now. You're going to start to notice these things. So I know this episode is going to be super powerful in the trajectory of your thinking, of your self-growth. And if it's really made an impact in your life and you really feel like these tips are going to help you embody this like newness, this charge in your life that you've been missing or like really craving, then I guarantee you probably have a friend or a sibling who also feels the same way and is going to get a lot out of this one. So forward it onto them now. Knowledge is great when we hear it. It's even better when we share it, and a great way to practice kind of being open, growing and receptive and sharing that with other people too. So I hope you guys have loved this one. As I mentioned earlier, if you get the chance to leave us a review or rating on Apple, Spotify, wherever you guys listen, if you're on YouTube, it means the absolute world to me. It's a great way for me to get your feedback, and also a really good way for us to continue to grow and connect with other balancers. So thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me. Don't forget to drop your thoughts in our survey as well. Of course, if you want to be kind of a part of the next phase of the podcast, maybe like a 2.0 version, I would love to get your thoughts and for you to be involved in that next milestone of our journey. So thank you so much again, and I'll see you guys all on Monday for another incredible guest.